The Trump White House walks a fine line between crushing Iran's regime and the economy. Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight, day 10 of the war in Iran. We are watching a delicate dance from the White House. How to win in Iran before spiking oil prices tank the economy. Yesterday, we watched the price of crude skyrocket and then fall hard after Trump told the CBS White House reporter that the mission in Iran is nearly complete. An interesting statement, as the regime had just chosen the former Ayatollah's hardliner psychopath son to be the new supreme leader. It felt like the president wanted to bug out of Iran, saying this toward the end of his Miami news conference.
I'd love to help them, but they have to be in a system that allows them to be helped. And right now they're in a system that only allows failure. And I don't want that. And I want a system that's not going to be attacking us. We want a system that can lead to many years of peace. And if we can't have that, we might as well get it over with right now.
If we can't have that, might as well get it over with right now. That kind of talk was exactly what Wall Street wanted to hear. Enough war, let's get the oil moving again, let's all move on. Investors don't care about ridding the world of a terror regime. The process of doing so is too messy for their investments. Trump's comments Monday were much different than his comments Saturday when he was on his way to Florida, when he was asked about his demand for an unconditional surrender from Iran.
Can you give us an idea of what unconditional surrender looks like to you?
It's where they cry uncle, or when they can't fight any longer and there's nobody around to cry uncle. That could happen too, because we've wiped out their leadership numerous times already. So it's if they surrender, or if there is nobody around to surrender, but they're rendered useless in terms of military.
So in just 48 hours, the president seemed to have dropped his unconditional surrender demand, considering cutting bait, is how it looked. Or maybe that was just the messaging du jour after oil prices skyrocketed Sunday night to $120 a barrel. We saw something similar to this during the toughest moments of the tariff fight last spring. Trump's team trying to protect the economy while maintaining a hard bargaining position with countries that have been ripping us off for a very long time. It was a very delicate dance, just as it is now. There's a reason why most administrations don't make these kinds of moves. It is much easier to kick these cans down the road. Just let our allies continue to rip us off. It's not our money anyway. Leave the Iran quagmire for the next guy, as so many presidents have. Fixing major problems is really, really tricky and really hard. And even harder when everybody seems to be hoping that you fail, which of course is what Trump faces every time he does anything. Trump's comments on Monday had the desired effect. Oil cooled off dramatically back into the 80s, as his War Department flexed this morning.
The mullahs are desperate and scrambling. Like the terrorist cowards they are, Iran stands alone, and they are badly losing. On day 10 of Operation Epic Fury, we are winning with an overwhelming and unrelenting focus on our objectives.
Ballistic missile attacks continue to trend downward, 90% from where they've started, and one-way attack drones have decreased 83% since the beginning of the operation. In the first 10 days of the conflict, we're more than 50 Iranian naval ships into the campaign, using a combination of artillery, fighters, bombers, and sea-launched missiles.
So the mission is going really well, right? Very well. The Wall Street Journal's editorial board pointing out today that Iran is clearly being decimated, but with a caveat. At 10 days in, the war can hardly be considered prolonged, and there's nothing gradual about U.S. or Israeli strategy. Instead, there is a race. Can Iran do enough damage to global energy markets with its remaining missiles and drones before it loses them or must come to terms? And with that, we get to the Strait of Hormuz, that critical, narrow waterway on Iran's southern border where all that Persian Gulf oil must travel through, and Iran gets their opportunity. It's a very narrow stretch right there. Clearly, the epicenter of the fight now is the Strait of Hormuz. Trump's been posting all day on social media about it, as we learned that oil tankers crewed by some very brave men have begun moving through that strait despite the warnings from Iran. So oil is starting to get out. From earlier, if Iran does anything that stops the flow through the strait, they'll be hit by the United States 20 times harder than they have been hit thus far, from the president. This afternoon, CNN reported that Iran was placing what are called naval mines into the strait. Look at these floating bombs that could blow a huge hole in tankers that are carrying sometimes 1 million barrels of oil. If this happens, the price of oil will skyrocket, and that's exactly what Iran wants. Trump posting later this afternoon, if Iran has put out any mines into the Hormuz Strait, and we have no reports of them doing so, he said, we want them to be removed immediately, ending that tweet by revealing that we're using the same technology they hunted those drug boats off the coast of Venezuela with to go after any Iranian vessels planting mines in the Strait of Hormuz. Trump then posted 10 mine-laying boats have already been destroyed. And we can tell you tonight that number has now risen to 16 as this narrow strait becomes really, I think, what could determine how this war ends. Blaine Holt is a retired Air Force Brigadier General. He joins us now. Rob O'Neill, former U.S. Navy SEAL. Good to have you guys here. Blaine, let's start there. The Strait of Hormuz might determine whether Trump can actually finish off this regime. Do you think that's how it looks?
Yeah, that's how it looks. He's doing very well. The campaign's going perfectly well. There's the unspoken adversary that hasn't been talked about yet in this, and it has nothing to do with mine-laying ships. It has everything to do with the UK and there being an impediment to President Trump's and the United States strategy here. Look more at Lloyd's of London trying to block shipping by pulling insurance policies, and then after President Trump says that's okay, we'll insure it and we'll escort it, then they go around behind the scenes and tell companies, if you play ball with Trump, we're going to hurt you later on. This is a monopoly that's been going on for hundreds of years. So their companies and clients take them very seriously. This is only the first of many things that Keir Starmer has done, to include denying use of bases, Diego Garcia, Glasgow, Scotland. And wait a minute, let's talk about the newest Ayatollah, who's got $150 million of luxury real estate in London that they never froze the assets on, but they had no trouble doing that with the Russians. So maybe the UK could get a little bit of a spotlight here and find out why they're being an impediment to global shipping and the financial markets.
That's such an interesting part of this that I don't think anybody's really talking about, but it's fascinating. Rob, over to you. Just as far as on a military basis, as a former Navy SEAL, the importance of the United States securing this strait and making sure that if any of these kind of gutsy ships go through, that nothing happens to them.
General Holt nailed it right there just by saying what Lloyd's of London was trying to do, because the Crown's been running that strait for like 300 years. And we just proved once again we're the mightiest Navy in the world. We were in 1776 and we are again right now still. Yeah, they're going to keep running it through there. The Navy's going to keep escorting them like they always have. And they're going to attempt to try this stuff with the mines, but that's old technology. We've been dealing with that since the first Gulf War in 1991. So it was more of a, let's see if the UK will try to join us, but they're not. They've got bigger problems now. If they're not going to join us in the Straits of Hormuz, they're going to be dealing with Sharia law like they are right now, taking over their country and pretty much their entire territory. So, yeah. But yeah, the move with Lloyd's, get a new insurance company. We got boots on the ground. Not boots on the ground. We got boots on the carriers. 2 of those. They can be on the ground if we need, but I don't think we'll need that anyway.
Well, Blaine, explain one thing to me, because wouldn't it behoove Lloyd's of London and all these financial Euros and Londoners to have a more secure Middle East, one where this regime is gone? I don't understand why you would screw with the president in this moment. Like, explain that to me.
Yeah, it's pretty easy, actually. They make money on this. They make money on paying for both sides of the war. Who brought the Shah to Iran in '52? That was London. And who brought the Ayatollah when the Shah wouldn't play ball? That was London and France. And then what do they want? They want to reinstall a new Shah in case this all doesn't work out. And President Trump rues the day and rids us of the Ayatollahs and nuclear weapons threat. They make money on War Incorporated, and they bet on both sides. Look no further than the Venezuela affair, and when the president was told by MI6 in London, we're not going to share intelligence with you. Why? They're protecting all of this money laundering that the cartels provide them. Rob will tell you the same thing.
That's precisely right. That's exactly what's happening right here.
That's It's just so crazy the way the world works.
Well, when you follow the
I
money
mean,
too, what you're
go
dealing
ahead.
with right now, Rob, is that you've got a president who's he's not worried about the party winning the midterms, even though he says he is. He's doing what America needs for our grandchildren right now, and he's got basically until November to make it happen. He's doing it right now. Everyone's going to be happy in a couple of months when everything is cheaper.
I love that, and I certainly know that's the vision, and I certainly hope that is realized. Rob, real quick, I want to play Netanyahu speaking on his vision for the end of this war as our ally in this fight. Take a listen.
Our aspiration is to enable the Iranian people to throw off the yoke of tyranny. In the end, it depends on them. But there is no doubt that through the actions taken so far, we are breaking their bones and our hand is still extended.
Is this what happens if real quick, Rob, if this doesn't end with this regime, tattered, if it ends in this supreme leader, this current son of the Ayatollah is still in charge, and we just walk away at this point, what does that mean?
Well, that's a loss. You can't walk away without him being gone. It's not our place to put anyone in there, but there's plenty of the Persian people, Iranians, who want something else, and they can make it happen. The best thing most people can do is just stop listening to most of the media and just let the adults in the room handle it, because no one's handled anything without how much money or power or how can my party stay in power. This is the first time, hey, enough crap, and I want my kids and grandkids to be safe. That's what's happening. I'm all for it.
Rob, you're never going to be invited on the show again if you say anything like that ever again. I'm just, never listen to the media.
I've said way worse than
honestly,
that. Come
I
on.
hear exactly what you're saying. You're not wrong. I mean, you're not, because it just divides. It turns everything into a disaster. Is what the media does.
Just listen to us, not the rest of the media, and everyone will be fine.
There you go. Blaine, final thoughts as far as what do we need to do to end this thing the right way so that this wasn't all for nothing?
We're not going to hijack a revolution. We're going to aid and abet one. What we need to do is have the Paul Reveres and the Thomas Jeffersons of the Iranian Persian people, which are not Islamic. They're Zoroastrian, they're Christian, they're Buddhist. Right. Take back their own country, pick their own leader, and then back here at home, keep your head on a swivel, because foreign wars don't stay foreign in a fifth-generation warfare environment. Take care of each other. See something, say something.
Interesting conversation, guys. Blaine Holt, Rob O'Neill, good to see you guys. Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you both.
Leader. Do you have to take him out? Does he have a target on his back?
You mean the new supreme leader? You mean the son?
How can there be an Iran?
Well,
with
I don't
Ayatollah?
want to say that, but I was disappointed because we think it's going to lead to just more of the same problem for the country. So I was disappointed to see their choice.
Assembly of experts picking the former Ayatollah's son to rule the country. 56 years old, Mojtaba Khamenei, more hardline than his father, backed by the IRGC. If the strikes, in the strikes, I should say, that killed his father, Mojtaba's mother, wife, as well as his son were also killed. But new reports from sources in Iran that nobody wanted this 56-year-old man to actually have this position, including his late father, the former Ayatollah, who explicitly said he shouldn't be named his successor in his will. We're learning that Mojtaba didn't even win a majority of the vote in the country. The IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard, pressured the committee until he was named the successor, and all that is coming, according to our next guest, Khosro Isfahani, who is a senior analyst for the National Union for Democracy in Iran, working inside the country until he left the country in 2021. And thank you so much, Khosro, for coming on. We appreciate it. Tell us about what you're hearing inside of Iran and kind of the status as it is right now.
So on Mojtaba, you rightfully mentioned we are dealing with an impotent cleric who has the charisma of a boiled potato, who had no political life whatsoever until he was named supreme leader. There is a single video of him speaking in which he stutters and cannot even deliver a clear message. When he was appointed and named, not voted, as the new supreme leader, he was not even able to show up for his party. He was hiding in a bunker. What they had at the party was a cardboard cutout of him. This is the new supreme leader of the Islamic Republic, a young, impotent cleric that has nothing but his dad's name.
Yeah, well, and it sounds like his dad even thought that the kid was a loser as well and didn't want him anywhere near this job. Is there any indications he might be seriously injured after we're trying to get him?
That has been reported that he has been injured, but it's either him is injured and he's not in shape to show in public, or he's so scared for his life after what happened to Daddy that he's not willing to show up in public.
If you're looking at this, I mean, obviously you're an Iranian, you lived in the country. Our president wants to do this in a way where we don't have to keep coming back to Iran. You know, as I think the Israelis call it, they don't have to keep coming back and mowing the lawn, which is just knocking out all the progress of this regime towards building weapons and annihilating the world. He wants this to be over. What has to happen inside your country for this to be over, for Trump to have a successful end to this war?
There are three key elements. One, continue striking the regime's leadership. Just taking Khamenei out is not enough. Right now, there are multiple names, including Ali Larijani, the Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, and the Parliament Speaker, Ghalibaf. These two men have been trying to stabilize the regime. They did the same thing during the 12-day war. Two is striking the regime's arms of oppression. Striking a couple of military targets, it's not enough. We need to go after the regime's arms of oppression and three ties in with the first two. Enable the Iranian people to take back their homeland. We have been fighting this regime since its inception. My family has been on the front lines of this fight. I have been continuing that inside the country until 2021 when I left. Millions of Iranians have been on the front line. Right now, we have a flag, the lion and the sun, the true flag of Iran. We have a leader who has put his life forward to lead Iran through the transition period. Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, we are ready to go. Our leader, Reza Pahlavi, has offered to hit the ground even before the Islamic Republic falls. We are ready to take back our homeland. We don't need any boots on the ground. The boots on the ground will be us, Iranians. We are ready to take Iran back and end this regime that has haunted the world for decades.
The boots on the ground will be Iranians. Wow. Khosro, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Goldman Sachs says oil traffic is ticking up in the Strait of Hormuz. A look at the economic side of this war with Trump's trade advisor, Peter Navarro, up next.
Rest assured to the American people, the recent increase in oil and gas prices is temporary, and this operation will result in lower gas prices in the long term.
And then later in the show, how green energy pipe dreams destroyed one of the best brands in the world.
Whenever news breaks.
A lot of destruction there. It was really the front lines in the battle.
And wherever it happened.
Spanish humanitarian corridors opened up this morning.
We're trying to go rescue a 96-year-old lady that doesn't have anybody to take care of her.
They're using ingenuity. They refuse to give up.
It's incoming fire. Come on. Yeah, let's get down here.
Newsmax is there for you.
So, here is a before of my stomach before Sonobello, and this is after.
This year, don't just lose weight, lose stubborn fat and sagging extra skin permanently at Sonobello.
I had some loose, wiggly skin, and it is no longer there thanks to Sonobello.
Our expert surgeons use micro laser technology to safely target and remove your diet-resistant fat and tighten loose skin permanently.
I wanted the results of the tummy tuck, but not the downtime. I had a 10 out of 10 experience.
We've helped over 300,000 people transform, and we're proud to be America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist.
In just one visit, Sonobello got rid of my love handles and my belly fat.
Do you want that flat stomach? You go get that flat stomach.
Call Sonobello. Get in there for your free consultation. Do this for you.
Schedule your free, no-obligation consultation. Our flexible payment options make it easy to get started today.
Get ready for spring now at Blue Compass RV with RV show prices at over 100 locations coast to coast. Forest River Auroras from $98 a month. Alliance Delta Solos from $198 a month. Or Jayco Greyhawks from $744 a month. Save on the largest selection of America's premium brands with RV show prices on over 15,000 new and used RVs. Hurry to Blue Compass RV. Shop online or in store today.
Mike Hammond here, founder of Signal Relief. Meet Dr. Beth Dupree, breast cancer surgeon for over 35 years.
In my surgical career, I have treated thousands of patients, and finding effective pain relief has always been a priority. Believe me, I was skeptical, but Cigna Relief caught my attention because it actually works. Clinical trials show over 85% of participants felt relief within 72 hours, with nearly half noticing a significant difference in just 15 minutes. Just place it near or above wherever you have the pain, whether it's your back, your shoulder, your neck, or your knee. Cigna Relief Patch brings proven relief. I recommend it to my patients, family, and friends, and I get to witness and experience their pain relief firsthand, and that brings a smile to my face.
Join the hundreds of thousands who have experienced relief with the Cigna Relief Patch, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. Trust Dr. Dupree and me. The patch works.
As we continue Operation Epic Fury, we're also focused on keeping energy and oil flowing to the world. And I will not allow a terrorist regime to hold the world hostage and attempt to stop the globe's oil supply. And if Iran does anything to do that, they'll get hit at a much, much harder level. They'll never be able to recover, ever. If they want to play that game, they better not play that game.
I'm going to talk about the economic side of this. Trump talking tough on the Strait of Hormuz, helping to drag oil prices down. 86 a barrel they ended at today, much better. Goldman Sachs says the flow of oil through the strait is ticking up. Today's naval mine threat, as we just told you about, warranted fast action. And CENTCOM tonight indicating 16 mine-laying boats have already been destroyed. Peter Navarro is the senior counselor for trade manufacturing at the White House. He's with us now. I imagine that the economic side, on the economic side of this story, Peter, that strait has got to be the main concern, right?
Rob, I want to explain the Iran terror premium. When President Trump says that after this is over, we get the other side of it, oil prices will not only go back down to the $60 range, they'll be lower over time. Caroline Levitt said the same thing today. Yeah. What they mean is this, Rob, for over 45 years, because of the geopolitical risk associated with Iran's terror, with its terror through proxies like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. What that has done, and there's well-documented studies on this, is effectively raise the price of a barrel of oil $5 to $15 above what otherwise market conditions would dictate. From pure geopolitical risk associated with Iran. Right. And its cost over these 45 years, something like $10 trillion of slower GDP growth. So to neutralize the Iranian terror is to get rid of this Iran terror premium on oil, and it all hovers around this Strait of Hormuz and the accident of geography that gives us a terrorist state in Iran near that Strait of Hormuz. And that's why the president is the first leader to recognize this. And it's not just that there's an imminent national security threat because of the ballistic missiles and the nukes that Iran has. Yeah. It's also this Iran terror premium that we can stop paying and the world will stop paying.
There's so many different reasons why this was the moment to do this, and the least of which is how many times this has been, as I said, a can that's been kicked down the road. Nobody wanted to deal with this, and just because nobody else wanted to deal with it doesn't mean that he's wrong for taking it on. A lot of people that are upset that this war was brought on and think that it goes against his policies. I mean, this was the right thing to do for a number of different reasons. You just enunciated another one of them. I want to talk real quick about as far as domestic energy, because a lot of people say, why do we always talk about being energy independent. Why does it matter, the Strait of Hormuz? The president announcing America First Refining is opening this new in Brownsville, Texas, the first new U.S. oil refinery in 50 years, $300 billion deal. Saying the biggest in history, massive win for American workers, energy, and the great people of South Texas. Tell us about what this will do, and tell us why it matters what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz if we have so much oil in the U.S.
So it's a beautiful thing, Rob, that Donald Trump's policies going back to the first term have allowed us, for the first time in decades, to be energy independent, oil independent. But we're in a world where we also trade with other countries, particularly in Asia, and Asia will bear a heavy brunt of this. Europe will have bear a heavy brunt. They have been, and if we can solve the problem, it will help our global economy and us as the world kind of flows with all its trade. So, sure, we will and can be energy independent. But as usual, the boss is playing three-dimensional chess and understands that basically having a good global oil market that isn't subject to the Iran terror premium is really the key to global prosperity. Remember, I told you, Ron, Rob, it's $10 trillion they've already extracted from the global economy in terms of gross domestic product drag. That's got to stop.
Yeah. Want to get to one final thing before I let you go. We had the jobs report last week. It was rather ugly for the month of February. Yes. And just to remind people, this was a month where half the country was frozen in ice and snow for about the first 2 or 3 weeks of that month. What happened last month? How do you explain that?
Yeah, well, look, I noticed a pattern in the legacy media. They're consistently misreading the actual reports. If they looked at that actual report, the numbers are totally driven by a healthcare strike and cold weather. And when you look at the average of jobs created over January and February, it's exactly what we need for steady state unemployment rate to hold. And there was great news underneath that report, as we've seen in other reports, that the manufacturing sector is strong. We continually swap these private sector, more productive, higher wage jobs for government sector jobs. Wages are rising. Yeah. So it's good that we can talk about this, because I want your viewers to understand that the fundamental underlying Trump economy is very strong. Inflation continues to fall at the core, and these important conversations to have, because the media gets it wrong, I think, because they want to get it wrong. Sure. There's just too much anti-Trump stuff going on.
And you expect March will be a stronger month?
Yes, I look. January, the manufacturing index finally turned up above 50. We had 2 straight months of that. It takes time for the tariffs to bring in the manufacturing. Construction's booming. It's a fundamentally sound economy. I wish Congress would get their friggin' act together and stop doing these shutdowns and things like that. Yeah. We don't need that. But it's like you can wish for things that you're never going to get, brother.
Yeah, I hear you. Peter Navarro, good to see you. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Rob. Love talking economics with you, brother.
All right, me too. All right. A fracture among Republicans over this war, over Israel. We've got an interesting conversation with Dave Rubin up next.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.
Doctors recommend turmeric more than any other supplement for joint health. I trust Cunol Ultra High Absorption Turmeric, made with the #1 doctor recommended form of turmeric, clinically tested to support joint health and a healthy inflammation response. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Little by little, age-related macular degeneration tries to take away your vision. You're not the type to sit back and do nothing, so now's the time to take action and make a plan with your doctor that includes PreserVision. It contains the clinically proven formula recommended by the NEI to help reduce the risk of moderate to advanced AMD progression. PreserVision is backed by over 20 years of clinical studies, and it's right here in the palm of your hand.
You spent a lifetime becoming who you are. Don't let AMD take that away.
It's your vision. Take action. Choose PreserVision.
Your data is like a single domino. The moment it's stolen, it starts a chain reaction that puts the information that guards your assets at risk. 1 in 3 Americans have been a victim of identity theft. Are you willing to risk it?
When I saw zeros on that screen as my bank account balance, I went to immediate panic.
$21,000 just gone. I opened my account and $30,000 is missing. Like $30,000. I have no idea what to do.
If your personal information is stolen, are you prepared to pick up the pieces alone? LifeLock is the leader in identity theft protection and restoration.
Once LifeLock got involved, everything changed.
With LifeLock, if your identity is stolen, they'll step in and fix it so you don't have to, guaranteed. Our highly trained U.S.-based restoration specialists contact institutions, dispute fraudulent charges, close compromised accounts, and even procure legal support far beyond the capabilities of your bank or credit card company.
LifeLock pursued this case further than I ever would have imagined.
If you call right now, you'll get LifeLock for just $9.99 a month for your first year. And as extra protection, all LifeLock memberships include the $1 Million Protection Package. Our members receive reimbursement for stolen funds and personal expenses, like lost wages, as well as coverage for lawyers and experts up to $3 million in total.
When the bank refused to reimburse my stolen money, the $1 Million Protection Package came through for me.
Our restoration guarantee and $1 Million Protection Package are included in all memberships with no additional fees.
I think it's natural to think that you can do this on your own. You can't. You need an expert in your corner.
Call 800-710-7531 and use promo code 35SAVE or go to lifelock.com/35SAVE to join today. Call 800-710-7531.
Go ahead, crank the volume. We got you. USPS has increased daily package processing capacity by 46% in the past 5 years. And with USPS Ground Advantage, your packages stay in our secure network, dock to door, nationwide. For full visibility, near real-time tracking, affordable pricing, for peace of mind. USPS Ground Advantage.
All right, so the war in Iran has caused a pretty obvious fracture in the Republican Party, we've all noticed, one that's been highlighted quite a bit in the media. Piers Morgan has called Ben Shapiro a propagandist as a fierce supporter of Israel and the bombing of Iran. Megyn Kelly also attacked Shapiro when Shapiro went back at Piers Morgan, calling him the same cancel culture vulture spitting, sneering intolerance that Kamala Harris is. And then you have Tucker Carlson, who's gotten really dark on this war. He absolutely despises the bombing of Iran and insinuated that Trump's demands for an unconditional surrender from Iran, which is the world's #1 sponsor of terrorism, by the way, would mean the rape of Iranian women by American troops.
Unconditional surrender means foreign troops get to rape your wife and daughter if they want. It requires that level of force to get a population subdued to the point of unconditional surrender. That's why. And so in this case, of course, we don't have the ground force necessary. I don't think Americans would voluntarily participate in it. I just don't think we can do that. It would require weapons of mass destruction. It would require presumably nuclear weapons.
All right, Dave Rubin is the host of the Rubin Report. He joins us now. Good to see you, Dave. I think it's pretty easy to see why we have a fracture here. I think what we're doing is the right thing to do, but I also acknowledge that Trump literally built his entire political image by criticizing foreign wars and the global agenda of the elites here in this country, right?
Sure. Well, I think it's important to make the distinction. Trump was always criticizing endless wars, right? Yeah. I don't think Trump was ever said he was against war for the right reasons. Now, you can have the let's say a purely libertarian approach that America should have absolute isolationist foreign policy, and that can be your opinion, and that's a perfectly legitimate political opinion. I mean, I think what Tucker is doing with the rape comments that you just made, his endless obsession. I mean, every single episode is about Israel and or the Jews. You know, he brings on lefties now and he glazes them, and then he brings on people on the right like Mike Huckabee or Ted Cruz, and he grills them relentlessly. I think this is a guy who went to Saudi Arabia, a place where churches are illegal, and said that he was happy and safe in the seat of Islam. Those were his words. Also said he was buying a house in Qatar. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on with Tucker. You know, Megyn's dissent has been kind of disappointing, but I think she's purely doing it for clicks. I think she just saw a lot of energy around Nick Fuentes and Tucker, and I think she's just decided to get some clicks off of that. And, what can I tell you about Piers? He's a British tabloid journalist. He'll do whatever for a click. It just kind of is what it is. I would say, though, just quickly to wrap it up, that Trump has laid out what he is doing. Iran is not going to get nukes. This is something he has said for at least a decade. You can go back 40 years, him talking about the Iranian hostages, that we have been at war with these guys for about 40 years. He's getting rid of their ballistic missiles because, as Marco Rubio laid out, they were going to create basically a shield for their nuclear weapons program. And look, they're firing at 13 different countries right now. I think what's happening in the Middle East is a complete realignment. Most of these countries are realizing, hey, Israel's not our enemy. The United States isn't our enemy. They're defending us right now. And if the mullahs and the next Ayatollah are gone and the Iranian people can get their country back, this will look rather remarkable. I understand that's a big if, but we will see.
It's the Tucker thing I always try to figure out, because he created such a big name for himself and has such a big following, and then he just on this one, it's I'm trying to figure out where he is, because he obviously has a penchant to some extent for some of these Gulf Arab countries, like you said, but those guys are also against Iran in this moment, and it's just a matter of does he just hate the Jews? What do you think his motivation is to be so defiant and so harsh on in this moment?
Well, I would say he does have an unhealthy obsession with the Jews. I don't know what's really in his heart or mind, although he did blurb one of my books, and I considered us friends for quite some time. He refuses to engage with me now, which is fine. He's written off a lot of people that used to consider him friends. So that is what it is. But I think largely, this is a guy who a week ago or a week and a half ago on his show said that Iranian agents were running, or that Israeli agents, Mossad agents, were running around in Qatar. And then Qatar had to admit it wasn't even true. He never issues a retraction or a correction. He just had Douglas McGregor on his show, I think yesterday, who was claiming that all our American bases in the area were destroyed and we're using Indian bases. It's completely made up nonsense. He won't address that. So I think this is one of the problems. We have to whatever extent we have a free internet, Rob, anyone can put on a jacket like us and get a nice background and pretend they're doing journalism. I try to tell the truth to the best of my ability. I'm going to make some mistakes along the way. I know you do the same thing. And if either one of us makes a mistake, we correct it. I would just watch people. People have an internal way of figuring out what's true, and I think a lot of people are waking up to what he's spewing.
Yeah, it's funny, the McGregor thing, you're right. He comes on and you think, oh, he was military and he knows all these things and he says all this stuff and it just sounds so interesting, and then you look it up and it's like none of it's true, and you just wonder, like, what the hell what are they pushing? You always have to be cognizant of that. As you said, anybody can get up there and talk now, and there's an internet full of people like that. Dave Rubin, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Good to see you.
All right. Yamaha, the latest major company to bail on California as Gavin Newsom ignores serious warnings about his own state's economy while gunning for the radical left support before the 2028 primary. That is up next.
You know Rob Finnerty. He's smart, bold, and stands strong for your values. Rob is fighting for you. Watch Finnerty weeknights only on Newsmax.
Ooh, that new Cologuard Plus test. 10 out of 10.
Now I detect 95% of colon cancers, similar to colonoscopy.
Somebody's been working on himself. Girl, those blue arms say I got you. The square jaw says trust me.
And the free return label says I'm going places.
The Cologuard Plus test. Non-invasive, no prep, and better than ever. For people 45 plus at average risk, it's the box that checks all the boxes for screening. False positive and negative results may occur, not for those at high risk. Ask your provider or request Cologuard Plus online.
You can join the Tunnel to Towers mission to do good by donating your car to today's veterans. Your car donation will help Gold Star families, as well as injured veterans, our first responders, and our homeless veterans. Donating your car is quick and simple. Any car is accepted, and we will pick up the car for free. Simply call 844-BRAVES.
By donating your car, you can make a real difference. You can do good.
Don't kibble your dog.
Oh, hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, Bat.
But what's wrong with this? It's premium stuff.
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means it's ultra-processed at extremely high temperatures that destroy the nutrients in the food. But at Dr. Marty, we gently freeze-dried premium meats, fruit, and vegetables, locking in their nutrients.
Never kibbled.
You got it, kid, and they're gonna love it.
Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America. Most investors believe their IRA, 401k, and bank accounts are reliable and safe. But what if our economy becomes so dire that you're restricted from accessing your own money? The fact is that should your bank be in trouble for holding bad loans, the burden could fall on you to help bail them out. Even more concerning is that U.S. financial regulations allow banks to impose withdrawal limits on your hard-earned savings. But there's something you can do about it. Our team at Swiss America has a report called The Secret War on Cash. Learn how to protect yourself with assets that can remain outside the control of banks and other financial institutions. For over 40 years, Swiss America has been one of the most trusted metal firms in the country. So don't wait. Call or text the number on your screen today for financial peace of mind in these uncertain times.
Total Beats, America's best-selling Beats brand, is available at Walmart. Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews contain a key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. Take control of your health. Head to Walmart and get Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews today.
He's breathing. Okay, go again. Children account for 75% of choking deaths.
That's why I recommend everyone have a life vac in your home, car, or business.
The life vac is simple to use. Just place, push, and pull.
Its suction removes an obstruction out of the airway quickly, saving a life.
If you use your life vac for an emergency, we'll replace it for free. Order now.
Go to lifevac.net or call 877-543-3822.
The existential threat of climate change.
Existential threat.
All right, welcome back. The climate grift has its claws in California's Governor Gavin Newsom. There are warnings that the state is on the verge of a fiscal collapse because of it. Newsom ignoring all of this, as you know, planning to jump ship anyway in less than a year and move on to potentially destroying the entire country in 2028. In addition to corporate flight, which has been so dramatic in that state, including Yamaha Motor Corporation announcing just today that it's moving its headquarters out of California into Georgia. Energy giant Chevron says California's policies have led to a state of emergency, calling out the state's Cap and Invest program, which places a limit on greenhouse gas emissions and forces companies like Chevron to buy allowances for greenhouse gas emissions from the state government. 15 California Democrats are now trying to cut back on this program. You got Democrats trying to cut it back before it destroys the state's energy sector and before those energy companies leave and take with them all of the revenue of that energy and the tax dollars and everything else. Nevada's Republican Governor Joe Lombardo writing a letter to Newsom warning the same, saying California's crushing anti-oil policies will lead to real-world consequences. So what will those consequences look like? Steve Hilton is running for governor of California. Larry Elder is the author of As Goes California, both Cali guys. Steve, tell us about Cap and Invest and just how ugly it could be if you're no longer bringing any energy out of the state of California.
Well, Cap and Invest, it used to be called Cap and Trade, is the reason we have the highest gas prices and the highest electric rates in the whole country. It's not just the gas tax, it's things like the low carbon fuel standard, there's endless regulations and all the rest of it. And by the way, that is supposed to be going to help fight climate change. We did an investigation at CalDOGE, the California Department of Government Efficiency, which I set up as part of my campaign about a month ago. We found that $1 billion from that program, which was supposed to be used to pay for solar panels for affordable housing units, was actually spent, most of it, for a Democrat slush fund for voter registration. So the whole thing is a scam anyway. That's why today I've done 2 things as part of my campaign. Number 1, calling on Gavin Newsom to suspend his ridiculous book tour, come back here and suspend the gas tax so we get some relief for hard-working Californians. And number 2, I've written to the oil companies saying, please, give me just 9 months before you make these final decisions to leave California, because if I'm elected in November, it's going to be a whole new day in California.
Right. And Larry, I mean, how devastating would it be for the bottom line of that state if you lost Chevron, if you lost these big oil companies, which a lot of them already left?
Well, they don't really care. At one time, believe it or not, and it's nice to see you, Steve. At one time, believe it or not, California was headquartered to all 10 of the top oil and gas companies. It is now headquartered to none. They don't care. And if you think that all of a sudden they're going to get a bout of common sense, consider this. Gavin Newsom signed a bill to jack up the minimum wage for fast food workers to $20 an hour. We warned him it was going to cost a hemorrhage of fast food jobs. He signed it anyway. The day he signed it, Pizza Hut laid off 1,200 truck drivers in one day. And since then, a study has confirmed that 16,500 fast food workers have lost their jobs. Have any of these Democrats who signed the bill said, you know what, maybe we got this wrong? They have not. So they're not going to learn anything. This is California, Jake.
It's just insane. And it's so disappointing because they're never held to any account because they have this permanent, majority. They have this super majority. They never lose elections. And for some reason, the people never wake up until it's too late. And how about the governor's wife paying herself quite a bit of money? This Girls Club LLC, up to a third of her nonprofit's entire income each year, pocketing over $3.7 million is the allegation here. Marketed as a charity against fighting against gender stereotypes and harmful gender norms, leaning on her husband to push those gender films into classrooms. We see this, Steve, so often from wealthy liberal elites. They love to fire up a nonprofit and use it so they can party and travel for free, and they don't give a damn about the people it's supposed to benefit.
Well, exactly. And this is the kind of thing you get with our 16 years of total one-party rule in California. And that's what you get, this kind of corruption and this regime that thinks they can get away with anything. By the way, a lot of that money, it came through something that we have in California, another version of the corruption. It's called behested payments, where the governor can literally phone up a company and say, please give money to this cause or that cause. Well, guess what Gavin Newsom's been doing? Phoning up companies that he regulates, like PG&E, one of the main utilities here, and asking them to give money to his wife's charity. It is total legalized corruption. Larry did such a great job when he ran against Newsom in the recall. He didn't quite pull it off, but this year, maybe we can make that change happen.
Maybe we got a chance here. And just one more, Larry, to add to that, you've got the CBS reporting the ground zero for hospice fraud in Los Angeles. 89 registered hospice companies were in one building in Van Nuys. Nobody cares about our money in these blue states, Larry.
No, when it comes to fraud, we're going to teach Minnesota how to do it. The good news, however, is that if the Democrats continue playing bumper cars like this, Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco could be the top two Republican finishers, and we would then be guaranteed to get our first Republican governor in 20 years.
That'd be something else. God, from your mouth to God's ears. Steve Hilton, Larry Elder, good to see you guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Larry.
Mamdani's dinner guest, next in News from the Left.
What if your GLP-1 for weight loss was as easy to take as a mint? Small, discreet, and easy. Think about that. No needles. This is compounded tirzepatide, a mint-flavored tablet designed to fit into your daily routine. You simply let it dissolve under your tongue. No mixing, filling, or storing your own syringes. Tirzepatide helps curb appetite and supports healthier eating by reducing cravings, including for sweets and carbs. And when your appetite feels under control, it can make it easier to eat less and move intentionally towards your weight loss goals. If weight loss has been on your mind, this may be the needle-free option you've been looking for. A simple daily tablet, as easy to take as a mint. Getting started is fast and surprisingly accessible. Just complete a quick online physician consultation. Here's how.
Save $50 with promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim.
Identity theft has become the country's most frequent crime.
I opened my account and $30,000 is missing.
$21,000 just gone.
Every 5 seconds, another American becomes a victim of identity theft. Every 5 seconds.
My accounts were being emptied, money was being transferred everywhere.
The question now isn't if your data's at risk, it's how to protect yourself once it's been exposed.
The police didn't believe me. The banking institution didn't believe me.
So what can you do to protect yourself and your family? The leader in identity theft protection is LifeLock.
Once LifeLock got involved, everything changed.
With LifeLock, if your identity is stolen, they'll step in and fix it so you don't have to, guaranteed. Our highly trained U.S.-based restoration specialists contact institutions, dispute fraudulent charges, close compromised accounts, and even procure legal support far beyond the capabilities of your bank or credit card company.
LifeLock pursued this case further than I ever would have imagined.
If you call right now, you'll get LifeLock for just $9.99 a month for your first year. All LifeLock memberships include the $1 Million Protection Package. Our members receive reimbursement for stolen funds and personal expenses, like lost wages, as well as coverage for lawyers and experts up to $3 million in total.
When the bank refused to reimburse my stolen money, the $1 Million Protection Package came through for me.
Our restoration guarantee and $1 Million Protection Package are included in all memberships with no additional fees. Plus, LifeLock now includes protection against scams.
I think it's natural to think that you can do this on your own. You can't.
Call 1-800-322-4370 and use promo code GET35 or go to lifelock.com/get35 to join today.
Mike Hammond here, founder of Signal Relief. Meet Dr. Beth Dupree, breast cancer surgeon for over 35 years.
In my surgical career, I have treated thousands of patients, and finding effective pain relief has always been a priority. Believe me, I was skeptical, but Signal Relief caught my attention because it actually works. Clinical trials show over 85% of participants felt relief within 72 hours, with nearly half noticing a significant difference in just 15 minutes. Just place it near or above wherever you have the pain, whether it's your back, your shoulder, your neck, or your knee. Signal Relief Patch brings proven relief. I recommend it to my patients, family, and friends, and I get to witness and experience their pain relief firsthand, and that brings a smile to my face.
Join the hundreds of thousands who have experienced relief with the Signal Relief Patch, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. Trust Dr. Dupree and me. The patch works.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. CNN's reporting on the two spoiled Islamists who tried to blow up a protest in New York over the weekend. Listen to how they describe these terrorists. They say two Pennsylvania teenagers crossed into New York City Saturday morning for what could have been a normal day enjoying the city during abnormally warm weather. But in less than an hour, their lives would drastically change as the pair would be arrested for throwing homemade bombs. As if the bombs just fell out of the sky and into their hands, and then they just accidentally threw them into a crowd of people trying to kill a large amount of people. The most ridiculous thing you could possibly write. CNN deleted that post and then had to do the retraction, saying that it failed to reflect the gravity of the incident, thereby breaching the editorial standards we require for all our reporting. It has therefore been deleted. That's saying the absolute least of what the hell happened there. And CNN isn't the only one that's sympathizing with these two young men from Turkey and Afghanistan who were brought here to given a life of such privilege thanks to this country and now want to blow it up. ABC News describing them in a photo caption saying an activist is handed a homemade explosive device by a fellow activist before throwing it towards police. Activists? Activists? No, that's a terrorist. An activist sits there with a sign and screams. Terrorist throws bombs. A reminder of the kinds of people that we have working in these newsrooms, these Marxist terror sympathizers that are embedded all over our media in this country. Next up, Jimmy Kimmel on the SAVE Act, aligning our country with every other first world secure election process, and also something that about 80% of Americans actually want. Here's how Kimmel describes it.
Trump wants to make it as difficult for Democrats to vote as he possibly can under the guise of stopping voter fraud, even though there is no meaningful voter fraud. There is no evidence that anyone can. More Americans were eaten by wolves last year than voted fraudulently. This is about fixing the election. He wants to change the rules of voting to make it more difficult for everyone, especially women, to vote. If this passes, you won't even be able to mail your ballots. You will have to stand in a line to vote.
Oh, my God, you might have to stand in a line for a secure election. We've never done that before, have we? Except every election in the history of the country. Kimmel, again, this is something 80% of Americans want, and Kimmel's up there talking about it like that on a comedy show on a federally regulated network. Again, ABC is defiant. They are against what the FCC is supposed to regulate. ABC breaks that law every single night, and it's about time that they learned a lesson for that. That is not a comedy show. That is propaganda. Next up, Whoopi Goldberg on The View says the Iran war is a distraction away from the Nancy Guthrie case.
I was thinking about it yesterday because I thought, well, okay, Why haven't we been talking about Savannah Guthrie and what's going on there?
And her mother.
Why have we not been talking about the Epstein files? Because that's still there.
Yeah.
This is meant to get us so worked up that we are unable to see anything else.
Yes, Whoopi. Well, I mean, once again, how can we pay people this stupid so much money? I don't understand it. The FBI has not been able to find Savannah Guthrie's mom. So the FBI told Pete Hegseth to start a war in Iran so people won't realize that they haven't been able to find Savannah Guthrie's mom. That's what Whoopi Goldberg, who makes millions of dollars, said today, again, on ABC. This is how stupid. I mean, it's like that movie, Idiocracy. It's happening here. And finally, our Islamic mayor here in New York hosting anti-Israel activist Mahmoud Khalil, his wife and young son for dinner. The picture showing his wife, Rama Douaji, Mamdani's wife, the one whose ecstasy over the October 7th attacks went viral this week because she's a piece of garbage, holding a plate of food while standing next to Khalil. Mamdani posting that they marked the one-year anniversary of Khalil's detention, and they were honored to have them to break the Ramadan fast because, yes, Ramadan is now a thing inside the governor's mansion or the mayor's mansion here in New York. Khalil, a Syrian-born activist arrested by ICE, faces deportation. I don't know if ICE is ever going to deport this guy. How is he still here? How is this man still here? Get him out of this country now. Up after the break, Porsche went woke, and it cost him huge.
Closed captioning brought to you by MagnaLife Relaxing Leg Cream PM for a good night's sleep.
The discomfort in your legs at night is real. Here's what real customers have to say about MagnaLife Relaxing Leg Cream. It's a lifesaver if you have restless legs.
Available at your local retailer.
Your Florida life is calling, and we have the answer. Valencia in Florida by GL Homes. Premium 55-plus living in 5 prime Florida locations. Gorgeous new homes from the mid-300s to $2.5 million. World-class resort-style living 24/7. Huge clubhouses, on-site dining, pickleball, and more. Effortless, low-maintenance living. Valencia, your Florida life is calling. Experience more at valenciaflorida.com.
I lost 110 pounds. You couldn't tell at all because of my excess skin. Sono Bello changed that in one visit.
Introducing the new Lift EX, the just one visit total body transformation everyone is talking about.
I am super happy with my results.
I decided to give Sono Bello a try. Look at me, I have a silhouette. You can see my waist.
Lift EX is Sono Bello's breakthrough 360-degree body lift alternative. Our body contouring experts sculpt, tighten, and lift your stomach, waist, thighs, and backside, all in just one visit with less downtime.
Sono Bello targeted the areas diet exercise could not do. I found me again.
Sono Bello has over 50,000 5-star reviews, and Lift EX is exclusively available at Sono Bello, America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist. Book your free, personalized consultation today. Easy monthly plans make your best body more affordable than ever.
This year is my year thanks to Sono Bello.
Call Sono Bello for your free consultation today.
Work shouldn't leave you feeling stiff or sore. You deserve a happier, healthier workday. That starts with a better workspace. One where you can stand a little, move a little, and feel a lot better. Barry has everything you need for head-to-toe comfort, with standing desks, ergonomic seating and accessories, so you can work well and live well. And right now, you can save 20% site-wide at Very.com.
Finally tonight, despite the 911 in insane demand, commanding prices well over MSRP as we look at a vintage beauty right there, German automaker Porsche had a horrific 2025, and it was wokeness to blame. Porsche tried to go super green to appease the climate freaks. It failed miserably. Nobody wants a Porsche without the Porsche engine. Porsche then reversed course last year on its electric vehicle strategy. According to recent numbers, the flip was quite pricey. Operating profit plunged for the automaker from about $5 billion a year. The profit went down to $105 million in 2025. Porsche said it will offer plug-in hybrids and combustion engine models well into the 2030s alongside all electric models. But the Euros, Rob Finnerty, tried to pull something here, and look at what it cost them.
Just
Isn't that amazing?
So pathetic. All of the technology's not there yet, but Joe Biden forced all of these car makers to do it.
the technology's not there. Who wants a Porsche that doesn't go vroom vroom when you hit the gas, right?
Exactly right. And I took 20 seconds to show. I'm giving that back tomorrow night, I promise.
Rob, no worries for you, anything, my friend. Finity starts now.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.